Hello?
Hello. Can you
Hello,
hear
sorry.
me?
Yes, I was just trying to get my microphone to work, but it works now.
Okay. Who am I speaking to?
Jasmine.
Yasmin?
Yeah.
I'm Walter.
Hello.
So, Yasmin, I believe we have one other person joining us.
Okay.
So, um we might wait a minute. Actually, it's already it's already several minutes after 6 o'clock. So we might we may get started and see if they join us. And if they do, we can just say hello and incorporate them. Does that sound all right?
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, before we get started, let me I have to close a door real quick.
Okay.
Okay. So, you did sign up for Kantian ethics?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And did you happen to have a look at last week's discussions to see how they go?
I did, yeah. Just like didn't look at all of it. I just kind of skimmed through.
Okay. Well, so we're just going to try to do it roughly like we did it last week. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, and we're just going to chit chat about it. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So the first basic thing, just in your own words, what would you say is the big takeaway of this chapter on Kantian ethics? What do you think?
So for Kantian ethics, when I was reading it, I did find it a bit confusing, but I think how I would describe it is um that your action, like the action you take, um let me try to rethink how I'm gonna say this.
No problem.
Like the actions you take, it's like the majority of what everyone else thinks. For every like the majority of what everyone thinks, and like the maximum or like the action you take or like the why is like a principle that you can act on like from anywhere. Like a very common that most people would agree on, most people would take action on.
Okay. Yeah, I heard a couple different things there. So one thing you mentioned, the last thing you mentioned is like a principle that you could apply anywhere, right?
Yes.
That's getting close. Do you remember what that principle is called?
A principle of like universalability.
Yeah,
Yes.
you got it. Yeah. So, you're asking yourself a question like, when you take an action, what is the principle I'm acting on? Like, what am I doing it for? And could I universalize doing it? Right, in basically,
Mhm.
as you put it, anywhere, but it's like in all cases, right? In all cases, when you might do this, could you do it? Yeah. And if it, like being self-consistent in a sense, can you be self-consistent when you do that? You'd mentioned something about maximizing. That's more consequentialism, which was the chapter before this.
Mhm.
The other thing you mentioned was doing whatever it's something like what other people think is right. If that I don't know how you put it exactly, but doing what other people think.
Like what the majority feels is right. What the majority says is right.
Okay. That's not quite that's definitely not quite Kantian. That's sort of more like we might call that like majoritarian, like in the sense the majority is
Yeah.
deciding what is right or wrong. Uh that might even be like, do you remember relativism from chapter 3?
Ooh, I think I do. Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, so relativism is sort of like morality is whatever society says. So that might be a kind of relativism, uh, like where the majority says what morality is. But we'll set that aside to talk about the Kantian stuff. So, do you remember the other principle that is talked about in the chapter?
Yeah, it was the principle of humanity. That one was
Yeah,
easier for me to understand.
yeah. So, yeah. Why you like that one a little more? In what sense was it easier?
It's because like I feel like it's just a lot more it's just like principle of humanity, always treating human beings and like not as like a tool. Like that's just very easy to remember, very easy to understand. So that's why I like that one more.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's less confusing for sure, right? With the
Mhm.
you're not you're not having to like imagine these strange universal cases and stuff. You're just sort of treating people in a sense, as we might say, right?
Yeah.
Um, okay, so uh, let's talk about let's talk about an advantage of this theory. So we can talk about the principle of universalizability first. Um, what do you think might be like the best argument for universalizing things? Did any argument in the chapter strike you as a good one?
Um yeah, the I liked how that it justifies the while you're trying like how you could fail while trying to do good. Like the one with the trolley. How let's say like you're trying to like make the correct option. I don't know what the option would be, but you ended up doing like the wrong one, not on purpose, but like possibly by accident. And that it would justify that it doesn't mean that you're like cruel or immoral, but like that like you'll just like justify that you're not wrong. Yeah.
Okay, it it allows you the principle of universalizability allows justifies how you could fail while trying to do good. So yeah, so somebody might be trying to legitimately do the right thing. They might fail, but we don't consider them a bad person just because they failed. That's just they failed. Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah.
So, and you think that this allows for us to consider those kinds of things. And are you comparing it there to the consequentialism of last week where we only consider the outcomes?
Um, no, I don't think I was. No outcomes.
Well, so if we only considered based on outcomes, then we would if somebody failed, it would be like they did a bad thing because they failed, right?
Yeah.
But if we're judging not based on outcomes but what they intended to do, then then it's what you're saying where you could still fail, but you might still be like considered a good person. Does that make
Mm-hmm.
sense?
It does.
Okay. Did you consider there to be um did you consider there to be like any any reason to disbelieve that idea? Like somebody fails and they actually are a bad person or something like that?
Mm, I, I wouldn't. If someone found they're a bad person. Well, no, I wouldn't really think they're a bad person. Like, not really understanding what they're in. Well, if they had like maybe a different intention, but I wouldn't really think that they were bad.
Okay. So yeah, so I just wrote down what if failing makes you a bad person, which would be the counter to what you're saying. But you don't
Hmm.
think you're saying no, failing doesn't make you a bad person. It means you failed, right? But it doesn't mean that you
Hmm.
were a bad person. Okay. Do you think do you think that there's any good uh what do you think was the best what do you think was the best counter argument to the principle of universalizability? Do you think that there was any counter that was really a strong one?
Mm,
Like, could you think of any case where it didn't seem true?
let me think. Oh, I think there's that one about like the robbing in the bank. It's
Okay.
if I recall, like it had to do with like oh, let me see if I can remember.
There was one there was one example where they talked about robbing a bank because you wanted the bank to fail. Does that
Yeah, so
is that a good example?
robbing the bank because he wanted to fail.
Yeah.
Yes.
So basically it would be under universalizability, you could rob a bank because you were trying to make it fail. That would be bad. So, universalizability doesn't work in that case, right?
Yeah.
Um, do you think that that's reasonable to think that are you convinced that so like we shouldn't rob banks because we want them to fail even though we could universalize that because we could just rob all the banks universally and they all could fail um, and that would work, that wouldn't contradict itself, but you think robbing banks just so they fail, you think that's bad.
Yeah. Just yeah, for that reason, just for them to fail. I do think it's bad.
So that's a good counterexample to the universalizability. Okay. Do you think that the principle of humanity is better for that one? We could
Mm,
discuss the principle of humanity a little bit.
yeah.
So I guess you could reframe this argument that we made, but you could do it in terms of humanity instead, something like that. So under the principle of humanity, you could not rob a bank because you were trying to make it fail. That would be bad. Um, so so the principle of humanity gives the right answer.
Um,
What do you think?
Ways for human beings. I'm sorry, I'm just a bit lost.
Okay, where did I lose you?
With the argument, combining with the principle of humanity.
Okay. So we were saying the principle of universalizability doesn't work for that bank case, right? That's what we were saying. So
Yeah.
the question then is, does it work does the bank case work if we use the principle of humanity? So do you think the principle of humanity rules out robbing banks like that?
Well, isn't the principle of humanity like just more well focused like on the people and persons than like the overall the bank?
Yeah. So the bank is not a person, assumably, right?
Yeah.
So so we could say that could we say that robbing a bank is good then under the principle of humanity? Would that be possible?
I think that would I want to say not possible. No, under the I want to say that's not possible under the principle of humanity.
Why is that, do you think?
Well, I think that because I feel like robbing the bank, I feel like that doesn't um well, it does like include the people in a way because we're infecting the people, but I feel like it doesn't really like robbing the bank for the bank to fail doesn't fit much under
Okay.
this principle.
So there are people's money is in the bank, right? So that
Yeah.
there are like human beings involved. So you don't want to violate their humanity by robbing the bank. So maybe you couldn't rob a bank if you were just using them as like as you said as a tool, right?
Yeah.
So so we could say something under the principle of humanity. You could not rob a bank because you would be using the people that bank there as tools. That would be bad. So the principle of humanity gives the right answer in that case, maybe.
Yeah, because you wouldn't want to. Yeah, robbing the people would take away their money and it would harm them.
Okay, so that harming them. So let's see. It would also harm them, and the harming them would be the reason it's bad.
Oh, yeah, slow. Yeah.
Okay. Um, do you think that there's ever cases where under the principle of humanity where you can harm someone?
Mm, yes, yes, I do. Um, humanity. Yes. I do remember there being a part in the video where they would talk about like whenever like employment, how it's like not really hurting people, but it could be like it's kind of considered like them using them as tools, but it's like you're not hurting them. So that could not really a case. I feel like what I said is not really a case though. That goes against the principle of humanities.
Sure. So you're saying maybe you use somebody as a tool, but it ends up not harming them, but it does use them as a tool. So, like, if you have somebody who's your employee, you might be using them as a tool, but they they actually are doing it willingly. They're working for you willingly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think if I remember I think the wording is you don't want to use them only as a tool, right?
Oh, yeah.
So maybe you can use them as a tool a little, but just not only as a tool. So like you have to pay them. You can't make them your slave, because a slave
Oh,
would
yeah.
be only a tool. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think do you think there's a disadvantage to that? Any disadvantages to the principle of humanity that you can think of?
Um, this may be like a possible disadvantage, but knowing what is like the correct way to treat a person, like to like what extent we can treat a person to like the means, because I feel like I feel everyone's idea of how you treat a person well is a bit different. So I think that could be like a disadvantage to how I might treat a person to how someone else might.
Okay, so treating well, it would be like treating everyone has a different idea of how to treat humans. Uh, the principle of humanity um, requires us all to be the same. Does that sound like what you're getting at? So the principle
Yeah,
of
it does.
humanity doesn't work. Something like that.
Yeah, and that would.
Okay. Yeah, I think so this comes up I think for like the golden rule. So the golden rule seems like it works most of the time, but one of the examples they give uh one of the examples they give is like, well, you might love peanuts, so you give somebody else peanuts as a gift because you would love to receive peanuts as a gift, but they might have a peanut allergy. So that would be bad. That would be bad for them, or something like that.
Mhm.
So in that case, the golden rule doesn't quite work, because they're different from you in an important way. Is that a good example for what you're kind of getting at?
I want to say yeah, it does.
Okay. Do you think that so we can give that as an example peanut allergy. Do you think that if I was going to defend the golden rule, I could do you think there would be a way to counter the peanut allergy thing? Like I can defend the golden rule against that?
Um, yes, just give me a sec. Like, let me think about how I would go against or defend that. Mm, I like to think there's a way.
I think you're right that there could be a way. Um, did you think of anything, or were you still thinking?
I'm still thinking the golden rule is like the golden rule, what does it mean exactly? Like, is it just like you're trying
Treat
to do
yeah.
treat others a certain way, but it could have like a bad outcome unexpectedly
No,
or
it's usually framed treat others how you want to be treated. That's usually how the golden rule is framed. Does that make sense?
hmm. For the golden yes, for the golden rule.
Yeah.
Mm, maybe we could be like countered in a certain way. Like maybe where you grew up or were raised, you were treated a different way, but to you that's normal. And so the way you treat others, let's say you grew up, just for example, you grew up maybe like punching people as a welcoming, and that's like really normal to you and the people around you and in your culture. And then you go up to someone else and then you punch them, but with all good intention, and they don't take that well. Or they're just
Okay.
like another peanut emoji
Maybe
example.
so, yeah. So the punching culture, punching for greetings. That's a fun example. Um, yeah. So uh, I think I think you're right that that's another example where the golden rule is kind of going wrong. So maybe the way to save the golden rule though from that, um, maybe the way is to say something like, well, I don't want it. So it's like putting yourself in the other person's shoes. So
Yeah.
if I had a peanut allergy, I wouldn't want to be given peanuts. So if they have a peanut allergy, I should treat them like I would treat myself if I had a peanut allergy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So then you're thinking, okay, okay, I'm not going to give them peanuts because because I wouldn't give myself those peanuts if I had a peanut allergy. Even though I don't, if I did have a peanut allergy, I wouldn't. Does that make sense? I feel like that's a way to save the golden rule there from your examples.
Yeah, that seems very difficult though. Like for like just like that's like that for that example, but that would feel very difficult for every person you would encounter. Like how would you encounter them if everyone's like so different
That's a great
with
point.
certain things?
It would be very difficult because you have to like know everybody's special circumstances, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I forgot to ask, what's your major?
Oh, I'm here at Com because I'm trying to major in dental hygiene. And
Okay,
this is like my first year.
okay, okay,
Yep.
great. So it's a uh, health field adjacent, basically. Um,
Yes.
okay, so maybe this I don't know if there's any peanut flavored toothpaste, but
I
uh,
know, that seems disgusting.
it does sound kind of disgusting, right? Um, but maybe there's certain toothpastes that some of your patients wouldn't like, um, and some that they would, and some that you like, but um, some that basically some you like that they wouldn't like, and some they would like that you wouldn't like, and so that's kind of
Mhm.
a example with this peanut allergy, right? Um,
Yeah.
do you feel like there's any other takeaways that you can apply these kinds of ideas to uh, your major and what your job will be?
Mm, maybe with the principle of maybe with like I want to say the principle of universalability.
Okay.
With that one,
Are you thinking of a specific?
Actually, yeah, I'm not sure right now.
Okay. Well, I think you saw how the toothpaste example might work. So maybe there are other examples like that that apply to that situation. I know, like, especially for those medical professions, you have to be worried about things like allergies for sure, so you don't give
Mhm.
them the wrong medications and stuff. So yeah, I don't know much about teeth, but maybe there's something related to teeth that would also apply. Okay. Any other last takeaways that you think is like the most important takeaway that you thought like, okay, this chapter I didn't agree with anything else, but maybe I learned this thing. Did you have any takeaways like that other than that?
Um, no. Oops.
Do you feel like you practice any of these rules in your life at all? Or do you disagree with these rules, but you see some value in them or something?
I definitely see value with the principle of humanities. Again, which is like treating people not as a mere tool. I don't know if does treating everyone equally, does that fit under the principle of humanity? Like I know because I feel like the humanity principle, I feel like that's more on like I feel like that's focused more on tools, like using people and not use like using them. But does it also just fall under just like general kindness to everyone, just like equally um being like kind to everyone? Is like does that fit under there? Like just being kind to everyone, like treating everyone the same, does it fit underneath that principle?
Probably. What do you think? Do you think that do you think it's kind to treat people as tools?
No. No.
Yeah, so I guess so you asked about kindness and then you asked about equality too. So I think for the kindness one, it seems like treating people as mere tools probably isn't kind, right? Um,
Mhm.
but treating people not as mere tools, that could be kind. So um, it seems like it's compatible possibly with something like kindness. Um, for equality, do you think that the equality one applies more to the universalizability? What do you think?
Mm. I feel like in a way, yes, if everyone thinks so and um everyone sees the act as acceptable, I want to say yes.
Okay. So I think it would be like it would sort of be like if you treat if you only do things that can be universal, then you never want to like treat a specific case uh, super differently, super unfairly, because you're trying to treat cases in this universalizable way. So you end up treating cases in equal ways. Does that make sense? Because you're
Mhm.
trying to apply it all across, like you're trying to treat all your patients at at your dentistry. You're trying to treat them all with the same fairness, which ends
Yeah.
up being like equality. Do you think that that's right?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, like kindness and equality might be things that might be might be things that fall out of these theories for sure. Seems like, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'd probably keep you longer, but because you're the only one, I'll end it a little early. So thank you, Jasmine. Yasmin or Jasmine?
Jasmine.
Jasmine?
Just
Okay.
like regular. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Jasmine. And any questions for me before we end the session?
No, or this isn't like relevant to this session. It's just that I think it's like the second account I made on here. I did have a like there's
Oh.
a yeah.
Well,
I don't know
you're
if like that's like a
okay. You're welcome to use whatever account you want. I it's um whatever's convenient for you guys cuz I wanted sort of it to be easy. So, um but I guess you're saying if I'm confused because there are two accounts that are Jasmine, um then just keep in mind that there are two accounts that are Jasmine.
yeah. I'm only gonna be using one,
Okay.
but I just like want to let you know because I don't know if it would confuse you or not, but I don't think it will.
Okay. Yeah, if you want as well, I think there's a place in the schedule sign up sheet where you can put the username that you're using.
Yeah.
So uh, that would alleviate some possibility of confusion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All
Yeah,
right.
I should go change that.
Okay. Let me know if you have any other questions, Jasmine, and I'll talk to you next session. Did you sign up for a session for the second half of the semester?
I did, and I think the one I did was it was was it the death penalty? I don't remember, but I did sign up for one.
Okay. I
Yeah, I did.
if it was the death penalty, I just did a swap of dates, so just make sure it doesn't have any conflicts for you. Um, because I messed up and I put them in the wrong order by accident. But I only swapped two of them, so it may not affect you. And did
No,
you?
it's okay.
Yeah. Well, just let me know and we can reschedule. But also, think about if you haven't already, think about pop culture thing that you want to talk to me about as well for our last session, and just let me know. Okay.
Okay, the pop culture can be about almost anything, like almost anything
Pretty
in pop
much.
culture.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll let you know if I think it doesn't work, but I want it to be something that you're interested in, and almost anything can work. It just has to be something that you can apply this class to. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Have a good night, Jasmine.
You too. Thank you very much.
Bye.